The zeros. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You scroll down. You scroll back up. The number doesn't change. $847,392.17. It's real. It's yours. Every digital digit glowing on that screen belongs to you now. And then you remember your government salary. $73,000 a year, before taxes, before the student loans that will outlive your children, before the rent on an apartment so small you can hear your neighbor's sleep apnea through the walls, before the car payment on a sedan that makes a sound every time you turn left. $73,000 to protect a nation that has never once asked your name. But now you have zeros. You're sitting in a restaurant where the menu has no prices. Do you understand what that means? No prices, because if you have to ask, you don't belong here. The tablecloth is whiter than anything you've ever owned. The silverware weighs more than your conscience. The other diners speak in whispers, as if loud voices might shatter the illusion of deserving this. The waiter approaches with a bottle of wine that costs more than your first car. You nod like you've done this 1,000 times. You haven't. Your hand trembles slightly as he pours, and you pray he doesn't notice. He doesn't. Or maybe he does and simply doesn't care, because your money spends the same as old money, as clean money, as money that didn't cost someone everything. 8 months ago, you couldn't afford the appetizer. Now you're the man in the corner booth, the one everyone pretends not to notice, the one with the watch that catches light like a promise, the one whose shoes have never touched a puddle, the one who tips 40% because guilt has a price too. But here's what they don't tell you about money. It doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like a countdown. Every zero is a weight. Every deposit is a debt. Every notification from that offshore account is a reminder that somewhere a clock is ticking. And when it stops, when the music ends and the lights come up, you will have to answer for every single thing you've done to sit in this booth, drinking wine that tastes like someone else's tears. It started with your mother. 3 words from a doctor with tired eyes. He'd said them before, to other families, in other rooms. You could tell by the way his voice flattened, protecting himself from the grief he was about to cause. Stage 4, inoperable. The room tilted. The fluorescent lights buzzed like flies over a corpse. Your mother's hand, so small in yours, so fragile, squeezed once. She was comforting you. She was dying, and she was comforting you. Then 4 more words, almost an afterthought. There is a trial. Experimental, cutting edge, a clinic in Switzerland where doctors spoke 4 languages and miracles were measured in millimeters of tumor reduction. They'd had success, real success. Patients who should have been buried were instead planting gardens, attending graduations, holding grandchildren they were never supposed to meet. Hope is a cruel thing when it comes with a price tag. $472,000, not covered by insurance, not available for payment plans, cash or wire transfer only. The Swiss don't negotiate. They don't have to. You did the math. You did it again. You did it at 3 a.m. with a calculator and a bottle of something cheap at burned going down. The number didn't change. It never changes. Math doesn't care about your desperation. Your government salary? $73,000. You would need to work for 6.5 years without eating, without sleeping, without existing. 6.5 years of perfect financial vacuum just to afford the chance, not the guarantee, the chance to save her. And your mother didn't have 6.5 years. She had maybe 6 months. The doctor said it gently, like that would help, like soft words could cushion the countdown. That was the first compromise. Not a grand decision, not a dramatic moment where you stood at a crossroads and chose darkness. It was smaller than that, quieter, just a door that appeared when you needed it most, and a voice that whispered that no one would ever have to know. A contact, a middleman, someone who knew that certain information had value, that access codes and security protocols and the names of assets in unfriendly countries were worth money to the right buyers, that your clearance level, your trusted position, your oath of service could all be converted into currency. The first envelope was thin, the first number was small, $40,000 for an access code that changed monthly anyway. It was almost victimless, you told yourself, almost meaningless. The code would be obsolete in 30 days. No one would get hurt. No one would ever know. No one gets hurt, you whispered to your reflection in the bathroom mirror that night. The man staring back at you looked the same. That was the most terrifying part. You expected horns, you expected a mark, but corruption doesn't change your face, it just hollows out what's behind it. Your mother flew to Switzerland 3 weeks later. You pushed her wheelchair through the airport, past the security you had betrayed, past the flags you had forsaken. She held your hand and called you her hero. She lived. The treatment worked. The tumor shrank. The doctors used words like remarkable and unprecedented and miracle. Your mother walked out of that clinic on her own 2 feet, crying and laughing and making plans for a garden she'll tend for another decade. She lived, and something inside you died in her place. Marcus Washington. You remember the first time you met him. Training, Langley, a room full of recruits who thought they were special, and Marcus who actually was. 23 years old and already the best analyst in the room. He saw patterns others missed. He asked questions others feared. He challenged instructors who had been doing this longer than he was alive, and somehow made them thank him for it. He saw something in you, God knows what, but he saw it. We're going to be partners, he said one day, dropping his lunch tray across from yours without asking permission. Not a question, a declaration, a prophecy he intended to make true. And for 12 years, he was right. Marcus was everything you were supposed to be, the decorated service record that read like fiction, the commendations that filled an entire wall, the handshake with the director himself, captured in a photograph that sat on his desk next to pictures of his family. He had a wife, Denise, kindergarten teacher with a laugh that filled rooms and a patience that seemed supernatural. She made cookies for the office every December, real cookies with frosting and sprinkles and little candy decorations that must have taken hours. She learned everyone's names. She remembered everyone's birthdays. She called you family and meant it. He had 2 kids, Jalen and Maya, 7 and 5. You've held them at barbecues, smelling of charcoal in summer. You've pushed them on swings while Marcus manned the grill. You've watched them grow from infants to children, marking time in their changing faces. He trusted you, not carefully, not conditionally, the kind of trust that doesn't ask questions because it doesn't occur to him that questions need asking. Here's my login, he said once, exhausted after a 70-hour week tracking a terror cell across 3 continents. His eyes were red, his coffee was cold, his daughter had a recital in 40 minutes, and he was going to miss it unless someone helped. You said yes. Of course you said yes. You watched him grab his jacket and run for the elevator, already calling Denise to tell her he'd make it after all. You heard him laugh as the doors closed. You sat down at his terminal with his credentials and his trust and his entire career in your hands. You knew his system passwords, his recovery questions, his mother's maiden name, his childhood pet, his first car, every secret question and backup answer, all given freely across 12 years of brotherhood. Maya, Jalen, 0523, their names, their birthdays, the password he should have changed but never did because he trusted the people around him, because he trusted you. Ride or die, he said once, drunk on cheap beer after a mission that nearly killed you both, his arm around your shoulder, his words slurring with affection. That's us, ride or die. You clinked your bottle against his. You didn't tell him that you'd already chosen which one you would be. The call comes at 2:14 a.m. Your phone lights up the darkness like an accusation. Unknown number, blocked caller, but you know who it is. You always know. Your contact, the middleman, the voice that turned your clearance into currency, the one you should have cut ties to months ago, the one you told yourself you'd never speak to again after the last payment, after your mother's final scan came back clean. There's a problem. he says, the same way someone might say there's weather or there's gravity, casual, absolute, a statement of unchangeable fact. An investigation, internal. Someone in the office of Inspector General noticed patterns in the data access logs. Someone started asking questions about information that appeared in places it shouldn't. Someone drew lines between leaks and access and timing, and those lines were forming a shape.
Your shape. Not yet. The trail hasn't reached you yet. But trails have a way of finding their source, like rivers flowing inevitably toward the sea. You have 72 hours. 72 hours to muddy the water, to create a new story, to give them someone else to blame, someone whose hands will fit the gloves you've been wearing, someone whose career will end so yours can continue, someone whose life will burn so you can stay warm. And you know exactly whose hands those will be. The office is empty at 11 p.m. It always is. The cleaning crew finished at 9, leaving behind the smell of industrial disinfectant and the gleam of freshly vacuumed carpet. The security guard is 3 floors down, watching basketball on his phone with the volume low. The cameras record everything, but you know the blind spots. You've been studying them for months, just in case. Always just in case. You walk through the corridors you've walked 1,000 times, but tonight your footsteps sound different. They echo like confessions. They ring like bells announcing your arrival to a judgment you've been postponing. Marcus's desk, 3rd row, 2nd from the window. The same desk he sat at for 8 years, surrounded by the detritus of a good man's life. Family photos, children's drawings, a coffee mug that says "Number 1 Dad" in faded letters, a stress ball shaped like a globe that Jalen gave him for Father's Day. You stand over it all. You could still walk away. You could still choose differently. You don't. You know the password. You've known it for years. MAYAJLEN 0523. His children's names, their birthdays, typed into the system by your steady fingers, granting you access to everything he is and everything he's built. Your hands move across the keyboard, steady, practiced. You've done this before, planted evidence in foreign systems, framed targets for crimes they may or may not have committed, but never like this, never to him, never to someone who called you brother. You create the digital fingerprints. You backdate the transfers. You build a paper trail that leads from the leaks straight to Marcus's workstation, his credentials, his access logs. 32 transactions, 18 months of evidence, a perfect narrative of greed and betrayal. Your narrative, your crimes, your sins, assigned to him. The files move silently from one folder to another. The progress bar fills slowly, 47%, 68%, 89%. Each percentage point is a nail in a coffin you're building with your own hands. You think about Denise, the cookies she'll never bake again, not for this office, not with that joy. You think about Jalen and Maya, the swings they'll never swing on without whispers following them. That's the traitor's kid, that's the spy's daughter. Children are cruel, and the children of suspected traitors learn that cruelty young. You think about Marcus in an interrogation room, alone, confused, saying your name as someone who can vouch for him, waiting for you to burst through the door and clear everything up, waiting, and never understanding why you don't come. The transfer completes, 100%, done, final, irreversible. You log out, you wipe the local traces, you stand up from Marcus's chair and push it back to exactly where it was. You walk away from his desk for the last time, and you don't let yourself look back. Looking back is for people who can still change things. The next morning, Marcus is arrested in front of his children. They send 6 agents to his door at 6 a.m. Jalen watches through the window, still in his pajamas, as his father is handcuffed on the front lawn. Denise pulls Maya away, And even from across the street, the neighbors can hear it. The whole neighborhood can hear it. The whole world, it seems, can hear the sound of a good man's life being destroyed. The next morning, you are promoted. 3 months pass. The investigation closes like a book whose ending was written before it began. They had a suspect, they had evidence, they had a confession's worth of digital fingerprints pointing to a man who swore his innocence until his voice gave out. The department celebrates, another traitor exposed, another threat eliminated. Emails circulate congratulating the team. There's talk of commendations, promotions, bonuses. Someone suggests a party. You receive a commendation. The medal is small and gold and feels like a tumor in your palm. They pin it to your chest in a ceremony attended by people who will never know what it cost. Cameras flash, hands shake yours, voices say words like valor and dedication and service. You receive a promotion. A corner office on a higher floor with a window facing the monument and a chair that doesn't squeak when you lean back. Your nameplate is brass. Your parking spot is closer to the door. Your salary jumps by $30,000 and the irony is so thick you could choke on it. Your mother calls. She's healthy. She's planning a garden, sketching out rows of tomatoes and herbs and flowers she'll tend through seasons she was never supposed to see. She doesn't know. She can never know. "I'm so proud of you," she says, and her voice breaks with love. "Everything you've sacrificed." Sacrificed. The word hangs in the air long after she hangs up. You sit in your new office, in your new chair, with your new view and your new salary and your new commendation, and you let that word settle into your bones. Sacrificed. You don't correct her. A year later, you see him. You're driving through a neighborhood you have no business being in, taking a route you could have avoided, drawn by something you refuse to name. Maybe guilt, maybe curiosity, maybe the need to witness what you've done, to make it real in a way that spreadsheets and news articles can't. And there he is, Marcus. He's wearing a brown uniform, carrying a box. His name tag says Marcus W., like he's anyone, like he's no one, like he didn't spend 15 years protecting a country that threw him away based on evidence you manufactured between midnight and 2 a.m. $12 an hour, that's what he makes now. You know because you looked, because you couldn't stop yourself from looking, from tracking, from monitoring the wreckage you created. $12 an hour to deliver packages to people who will never know that the man on their doorstep once briefed the president. He didn't go to prison. There wasn't enough evidence for that, because even you couldn't fabricate a case bulletproof enough for federal prosecution. But there was enough evidence for everything else. Enough to end his career, his clearance revoked, his pension forfeited, his reputation destroyed so thoroughly that his name has become a cautionary tale told to new recruits. Don't be like Marcus Washington. Enough to make Denise take the kids to her mother's house for just a while. It's been a while now. The while has become months, and the months have started to feel permanent. He sees his children every other weekend in supervised visits, because even family courts have heard the rumors, and rumors are enough when your name has become synonymous with treason. Marcus sets down the package on someone's porch. He stretches his back. It bothers him now, all those hours in a van, all those boxes lifted without the health care he used to have. He looks tired in a way that sleep can't fix. A bone-deep exhaustion that comes from waking up every day to a life you don't recognize. And then he sees you, across the street, through your windshield, behind the wheel of a car that costs more than his year. He doesn't wave, he doesn't shout, he doesn't cross the street to confront you, or demand answers, or plead for help. He's past that now, past hope, past appeal, past believing that anything he says or does can change what happened. He just looks at you, and in that look, you understand something terrible. He knows. Maybe not how, maybe not proof, but somewhere in the back of his mind, in the place where trust lived before you murdered it, he knows. He's replayed every moment, every password shared, every late night you volunteered to cover for him. He's done the math that you prayed he'd never do, and the numbers add up to you. You drive away. The engine purrs. The leather seats embrace you. The climate control maintains a perfect 72 degrees as Marcus disappears in your rearview mirror, getting smaller and smaller, but never quite gone.
He doesn't follow. And that night, in your apartment with the view of the Capitol and the furniture you bought to fill the space, you hear it for the first time. The hum. It's subtle at first, easy to mistake for the refrigerator or the air conditioning or the traffic 18 floors below, but it's none of those things. It's not coming from outside at all. It lives in your chest, behind your sternum, lower than a heartbeat, higher than silence, a frequency that exists only for you, audible only to ears that have earned it. It's the sound of every compromise, every lie, every envelope passed in parking garages, every file transferred in empty offices, every time you chose the zeros over the man who called you brother, every night you slept on sheets he can't afford while he counts the hours until his next visitation. You pour yourself a drink, top shelf, single malt, the kind of whiskey that people like Marcus used to drink at retirement parties they'll never have. The hum doesn't stop. You go to bed in sheets that cost more than Marcus makes in a month, Egyptian cotton, thread count higher than your conscience, a mattress that remembers your shape and forgets your sins. The hum doesn't stop. You get promoted again, you move offices again, you buy things you don't need with money that will never be clean, filling closets and garages with evidence of success that tastes like ash. The hum doesn't stop. It will be there when you retire with full honors and a pension Marcus will never see. It will be there when they give you a plaque and a handshake and a cake in the break room. It will be there when you move to a house with a garden like your mother's, where you'll plant flowers and try not to think about what fertilizes them. It will be there when they lower you into the ground with a folded flag and a 21-gun salute. When the eulogies call you a patriot, when the obituary lists your commendations, when your gravestone reads, "Served with honor," and only the worms know the truth. The hum will be the last thing you hear. Because this is the truth about corruption. The money spends, the bills get paid, the problems get solved, your mother lives, your career thrives, your bank account swells with zeros that multiply like cancer cells, filling every space, consuming every excuse. But the cost? The cost is forever. Every good night's sleep you'll never have, every mirror you'll learn to avoid, every time someone calls you sir and you hear traitor, every handshake that feels like a lie, every promotion that tastes like blood, every holiday where you sit at tables surrounded by people who love a version of you that doesn't exist. Somewhere across town, Marcus is finishing his shift. His back hurts, his feet hurt, his pride most of all. The van is hot in summer and cold in winter, and the company doesn't care because there are 100 people waiting to take his job if he complains. He used to protect national security. Now he delivers dog food and protein powder and packages that could be anything or nothing. But when his head hits the pillow tonight in the small apartment he can barely afford, he will sleep, actually sleep. The deep, dreamless sleep of a clear conscience, the rest that comes only to those who have nothing to hide, the peace that you traded away for zeros and security and a mother's garden. And that is the thing you bought. Not just his career, not just his family, not just his future, his peace. You traded his peace for your zeros. And in the scales of whatever comes next, you know exactly how that equation balances. You are Special Agent Redacted, employee number redacted, clearance level redacted, a patriot on paper, a monster in practice, a man who saved his mother and damned his brother, and will spend every remaining day listening to a sound no one else can hear. And you will never hear silence again.